Hello, I want to talk about bolt drive sprockets on fixed gear. Oh, but bolt drive sucks. You shouldn't ever use them. Just go with spline drive or you're an idiot. Yes, that may be true. But all I want to do is talk about if you have a bolt drive, your bike's not crap, it may still be fine. And there's some simple things you could do to make it better. So, to start off with, I admit the default bolt for the bolt drive sprocket is terrible. This thing is not a real fastener. It's not used anywhere for anything other than bolt drive sprockets. Real bolts, like the socket head cap screw or this bolt here, they have markings for what specs they meet. These M10 have certain specs. People's lives depend on fasteners. If they fail, somebody could die. So there's rigid specs. For instance, this one is a 12.9 class. That means it's a pretty strong fastener. This one's a 10.9 class. This one, it doesn't have any markings. It's not used for anything other than stuff in the bike industry. And my theory on that is, how do you check the spec on it? They'll check the spec on that, not with strength, but they'll just take a magnet. This meets the spec for whatever this rinky-dink bolt is. So the default bolt in a bolt drive system is terrible. There's no reason it has to be, though. If you can fit it, you can fit a proper bolt. An M10 bolt is quite strong. The other thing I put here is look at these M10s. These are just different tightening devices for these M10s. Here's our little guy here. It's just the rinkiest, dinkiest M6. This is tiny. And then this is all the way up to a full size. You can use a ratchet with this style of bolt. This is what you should probably be using. It's the easiest in my opinion. But let's skip to the numbers. So an M10 of a proper, just a middle grade class 10.9. It can have a clamp load of over 8,000 pounds. And then the class 2.9 has a 9,500 pound clamp load. The torque for both of these is 40 to 60. So let's just say 60. So I'm going to be talking about 60 foot-pounds and what that means. So the way a bolted joint works, the bolt generates clamp load. And then the two surfaces come together and there's friction. That friction is what does the work. So that clamp load is just bringing those surfaces together so that friction can actually do the work. So the 8,000 pounds comes together in friction. To get how much friction you have working for you, multiply typically by 1.5. So you don't get all of the clamp load working for your bolted joint to hold your crank together. You get 15% of it. But still, 15% of, 9,500, that's well over 1,500 pounds. So you have 1,500 pounds holding your cranks together. Is it possible that you generate, back and forth motion that exceeds that? I guess, but it's going to be a lot of effort to do such a thing. Here's the reason that you're typically seeing bolt drive sprockets fail, or bolt drive systems fail. All right, so let's go with the most favorable torquing device. Let's go with the good old hex head bolt and a 1/2 inch, ratchet. This is pretty big. My hands aren't that big. This is big and beefy. I don't have a torque wrench on hand that would be easier to demonstrate, but for purposes of showing how much torque is required for an M10, I think this does the trick. So this thing where my hand goes, let's say it's around 9 inches where I'm gonna grip this. So to generate 60 foot-pounds using this 9-inch wrench here, I need approximately 80 pounds of force. 80 pounds of force. What is that? Now, imagine filling this with 2 20s, 2 15s, and a 10. That's 80 pounds. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna pretend I'm gonna wrench on my bike. What does 80 pounds feel like? I'm not a weak guy. So here's me picking up 80 pounds, and you can see I'm struggling to pick up 80 in such an awkward position. If you have a bike that's not rolling around, I like to put it upside down like this. Put 80 pounds into this thing, you feel it, and it feels like a lot. So when I'm putting 80 pounds into here, of course you could use a torque wrench, but what does it feel like to put proper torque on an M10? Even with a big ass wrench like this, it's a lot of torque. Now, bump down and just remember our unknown strength fastener. Do you really think you'll be able to get this rinky-dink head to be able to withstand that amount of torque? No. We don't know how strong these are because they're not marked. They're a mystery. Their spec is, are they magnetic, basically? So we don't know if the standard hex drive will strip out or not. It definitely will when you're trying to put that much torque on there. So moral of the story is, I think these cheesy bolts might work for BMX because they have torque in one direction. When you switch direction of torque through your drivetrain, you're going to want something that's stronger, properly torqued, and that's something like a hex head bolt. And you saw me putting this on there. So this is a deep socket M17. It does fit around a mid-bottom bracket like here. So you can put this on here and then torque it down. One of the limitations you'll face is your clearance there. So you'll probably have some tightness, so you might not be able to put a full height bolt. Also, ideally, you'll want a washer under there. So on this frame, there's plenty of room. But yeah, I think it's a factor of you don't have the right torque and you have a rinky-dink bolt, why it's not working. But it should be a $2 solution. Buy the correct bolt and put it at the proper torque, and you're gonna have a better, you're gonna have more fun, more luck with that. And yes, of course, you can always upgrade to a spline drive. Perhaps that's better. But if you have bolt drive, your sprocket's not trash. You could just try to upgrade the bolt. Okay, thank you.